For this tutorial, I will be using this version of Eclipse, and I'll be using Glassfish 4.1, which I have in the servers directory. So Glassfish 4.1 and then Glassfish 4 and then Glassfish. And I will be using JDK 1.8, which I have in this directory. And I will also set up and run the same application on Tomcat 8. Which I have under the servers directory. And I will be using JDK 1.8. And next I'll go ahead and create a new web project. And initially it's gonna be running on Glassfish 4 or 4.1. And it's gonna have a web.xml. Next, I'll create this class, which would be in this package. And I will also create an HTML file. That will have this title, and in the body we will have a text area where the exchanged messages will be displayed, and a text field where the user enters messages, and a send button where when the user clicks this button, the JavaScript send message function will be triggered. And I will place the JavaScript code over here. So this is where I will have my send message function. And for my chat room server endpoint, I'm gonna annotate it as a server endpoint. And now on the JavaScript side, I can access that server endpoint by doing WS, and I'm gonna hardcode localhost for the purpose of this tutorial. So the port is 8080, and the project name is WebSocket Project 16, and chat room server endpoint is coming from here. So now using that WebSocket variable, I can send messages from the send message function. So WebSocket.send, and the message is gonna be the content of this text input field, and I will clear out that field after sending the message. And when a message comes in from the server, I will be handling it here. So WebSocket.onMessage, this function is going to be triggered, process message. And the message coming in is going to be JSON. So I'll have this variable JSON data, and I'll parse the message.data. So JSON.parse. And in the JSON data, I will have a message. So if JSON data.message is different than null, then I will go ahead and add the incoming message to the messages text area. So messages text area.value is JSON data.message in the new line. So that's all what I need on the JavaScript side, on the client side. So for the chat room server endpoint, I've used in previous tutorial, I've used this build JSON data method. So I'm gonna be reusing it. Without re-explaining it. And here I will have a handle open method. That is annotated with the onOpen. And a handle close that is annotated with onClose, and a handle message that is annotated with onMessage. And I will have a set of all the users. And each user is represented by a javax.websocket.session. And before continuing, let me go ahead and start server. Okay, so now I'll right click and Glassfish and view admin console. And we will go to default config and security and routes and file, and here I'll do manage users, and I'll go ahead and add a new user. So let's call it ZA user 1, and the group is gonna be the users group, and password, just use password. and I'll add another user. So ZA user 2, and the group gonna be the users group, and password and password. And the final user, so ZA user 3, and users and password and password. Now going to my web content and web inf, and both web.xml and glassfish web.xml. And here I will add a security role mapping, where I will map the role name of user to the group name of users. And in web.xml, we go ahead and take those out. And here I will need a security constraint and a login config. Now the security constraint is going to contain a web resource collection and an auth constraint. And the login config, here I will specify the auth method as basic, so basic authentication, and the role name as file. And in web resource collection, I'm gonna secure everything in the application. So I'll just call it simple web resource. And in auth constraint, only users with the role name of user can access this application. And so what I did here is map the user to users. And that's all what I need to secure this application with basic authentication. And now when a new connection is being established, the handle open method will be called, and here I will add the session representing the user to the set of sessions we are maintaining here. And when the connection is being closed, the handle close method will be called. And here I will remove the session from the set of sessions. And the username that a user will use to communicate will be based on his authentication. So I'll pick up the username from the session, user session, .get user principal, .get name. And in this case we have 3 users for the Glassfish application server. We had ZA user 1 and ZA user 2 and ZA user 3. and I want to only add that user in case it's not already in this set. So to check for that, I'll do this. So chatroom users dot stream dot any match, and I'll check if the username of any of the pre-existing users in this set is equal to the username of the user that is trying to log in. And in that case, I'll handle it here, and otherwise, I'll go ahead and add that user to the chatroom users. So in this case, I'll send this message to the user that from the system that this username is already connected. Otherwise, after adding the user, I'll send this message. So from the system, so you are connected as and the username. And in both cases, I'm using the built JSON data method that I added over here. And in handle message, the user is only going to be able to communicate in case it exists in the chat room users. And in this case, I'll propagate the message coming from the client to each one of those users. So I'll do this x.getBasicRemote and send text, and I'll still use that built JSON data method. And so user session.getUserPrincipal.getName and the message coming from the client. And this should do it. Next, I'll go ahead and test run the application. So VA user1 and password. Let's copy this, and I want to remove this window. And VA user2 and password. let me open up a third browser and try to connect as VA user 1 and password. And since this user is already connected, it's gonna give this message, and he can't send any messages or receive any messages. So let's close it and open it up again. And now let's try VA user 3 and password. And now it can send and receive messages. Next, I want to run this code on Tomcat 8. So in order to do that, I'll create a new project. It's gonna have a web.xml file. And let's copy default.html and drop it here. And I want to change this to underscore Tomcat 8 for this project name. And let me go here and copy this package and paste it here. So what I will do to fix this is go to the lib directory under webinf and drop this javax.json jar, and I've downloaded this in previous tutorials and used it. And let me go to webinf and web.xml and copy from here and go to the web, the Tomcat project, and drop them here. And next, let me close all and close this one. And I'm gonna go to Tomcat users and uncomment these, and I'll add the role of users, and VA user 1, and password, let's do password, and roles is users. And actually, to make it different from the Glassfish one, let's make it 01. I have 02 and 03. And let's save all and close it. And now I can test run the application. Actually, let me close this. And, and I think this is caused by Glassfish. So let's stop it. And now let me try to run it. Okay, so let's do VA user 01 and password. And I think I might know why. Let's go to web.xml, and the role name here for Tomcat should be users. And now let me test run it. Okay, so let me take this out. And I'll copy this and open up two browsers. So VA user 02 and password. And VA user 03 and password. And finally, I just want to add this to both projects and annotate it as on error.